Long, long ago, there was a king named Dasaratha in India. He had his capital at Ayodhya. He was a brave but God-fearing ruler who loved his subjects as his children. He had three queens named Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra. The queens were very beautiful, pious, and virtuous. Dasaratha belonged to the dynasty which started from the sun god himself. So, he worshipped the sun daily, as guided by the royal priest who was named Vashishta. In spite of the comforts of their majestic life, the king and his three queens were not happy. The reason was that none of the queens had given birth to any child so far. So, the kingdom was without a crown prince. The king and the queens were well past middle age. So, the king had lost all hopes to be blessed with a son. Who will succeed to my throne after me? He often asked himself. One day, after the usual worship, King Dasaratha prayed to sage Vashishta, "Please do something so that I may not die without leaving an heir to my throne." Sage Vashishta consoled the king, saying, "Don't worry at all, O king. You shall be blessed with sons. But you will have to perform Putreshti Yajna, son-granting worship." The king replied reverently, "I am ready to do anything." He then requested the royal priest to make arrangements for the son-granting yajna. This worship is to be performed by Saint Shringi. "Go to his hermitage barefoot and request him for it," remarked Vashishta. Next day, King Dasharatha approached Saint Shringi. Touching his feet respectfully, he said, "Sage Vashishta has directed me to you, sir. Be kind to perform the sun-granting worship for me." The saint agreed and accompanied the king to Ayodhya. He performed the worship. As soon as it was over, the fire god appeared out of the fire with a pot in his hands. It contained the holy prasad for the queens. "Your wish is granted, O king. Take this pot to your palace and ask your queens to share its contents," said the fire god. Saying so, he disappeared. The king was very happy indeed. After the yajna, Saint Shringi left for his hermitage. Seeking sage Vashishta's permission, King Dasharatha went into the palace. Seeing a pot in his hand, all the three queens came running to him. They were very excited indeed. "What is there in this pot?" asked the queens. The king told them all about the yajna and handed the pot over to Kaushalya, the eldest queen. Then, all the three queens shared the prasad as directed by Saint Shringi. Before long, the king got the news that all the three queens were in the family way. He was besides himself with joy. In his heart of hearts, he thanked Almighty and both the saints as well. His wish was going to be fulfilled. Days, weeks, and months rolled by. Then approached the day of the births of four princes of Ayodhya. That auspicious day was the 9th day of the waxing moon in the month of Chaitra. The three queens gave birth to four lovely sons in the evening. King Dasharatha became the father of four sons. Kaushalya, the eldest queen, gave birth to one son, and Kaikeyi too gave birth to one son. But Sumitra bore two male twins. The town of Ayodhya put on a new look, and celebrations went on for a number of days. As for the royal palace, it resounded with shouts of joy. Everyone was happy at the births of the princes. The maids and the attendants were given awards and gifts by the king and the queens. There was joy and bliss all around. Festivities continued for days together on end. Markets and streets were profusely decorated with buntings and colorful gates. Rows of lit lamps were kept on the balconies at night. Ladies of the town were happy. They marched to the palace in groups, singing joyful songs to congratulate the queens. King Dasharatha dispatched a special messenger to convey the happy news to sage Vashishta. The sage came to the palace to bless the newborn princes. A large number of saints and brahmanas were with him too. The king paid his respects to all the saints and gave them gold, clothes, and cows in alms. Saint Shringi was specially honored in a befitting manner. He blessed the entire royal family and the four princes in particular. Merriment and celebrations went on for over a month. When the princes were 40 days old, their christening ceremony was held. The king requested sage Vashishta to suggest befitting names for the four princes. The royal priest performed the naming ceremony and named Kaushalya's son Rama, the source of bliss. He named Kaikeyi's son as Bharata, the caretaker of one and all. Queen Sumitra's eldest son is born to destroy enemies, so he should be named Shatrughna. Her youngest son is to possess the best of the human qualities, so he is to be named Lakshmana, said sage Vashishta. The queens liked the names very much. They were indeed extremely delighted. Rama, the eldest prince, had a pale brown complexion, but he was extremely handsome. The gold chain around his waist and the amulets on his arms added to his personal charms all the more. He was the apple of the king's eye. All the three queens, too, loved him very deeply. Rama's movements and pranks were very fascinating indeed. He was the talk of the entire palace. Whoever saw him, he or she wanted to take him into his or her arms and fondle him lovingly. All the three other princes were fair complexioned. The king and the queens were almost always lost in the sweet company of their dear sons. They fed them with their own hands and could ill afford to let them be away from their eyes, even for a moment. In due course, the princes grew young. The king requested the royal priest to perform their thread ceremony. This done, their formal education started. First of all, they were imparted training in shooting arrows. Rama was the most handsome and lovable of all the princes. He was cool and calm by nature. Lakshmana was more attached to Rama from the very beginning, but he lost his temper very soon. As for Bharata and Shatrughna, they were very intimate. As the princes grew up further, the king decided to send them to the hermitage of sage Vashishta for all-round education. There, they were to live as continents, brahmacharis, till the age of 25 years and attain knowledge at the feet of the great guru. The princes were soon informed that they were to go to the hermitage of the royal priest, so they prepared themselves for that. Soon they got their hair shorn and dressed up as brahmacharis in coarse clothes of saffron color. Then the princes, led by Rama, went to their mothers to seek their permission to leave the palace. The mothers felt shocked at the very idea of separation from their sons. But the family tradition was to be followed. So they had to send them off with heavy hearts and tears in their eyes. At sage Vashishta's hermitage, the princes started learning various disciplines at the feet of their great teacher. The sage imparted them knowledge befitting the princes of a great kingdom. The princes devoted themselves to studies and served the sage as humbly as they could. He imparted them the knowledge of the three aspects of God's power: creation, preservation, and destruction. Sage Vashishta imparted instruction on the state matters too to the four princes. Apart from it, he guided them in day-to-day worldly dealing as well. Sage Vashishta explained to the princes that human body is made up of the five elements: air, water, fire, earth, and space. Also, that man is the supreme creature among all living beings. The sage said, one must hold his parents and teachers in high esteem. They must be loved, served, and respected. Moreover, truth is the greatest power, and it always conquers in the end. Untruth or falsehood leads to sins. Love of creatures is love of God, whereas hatred earns his anger. The princes took an oath to follow the instructions of the great teacher to the letter. They were now well informed to step into the life of householders. The princes were just nearing the end of Brahmacharya period. So, Sage Vashishta decided to teach them the duties of a good ruler and the art of statecraft. The sage said, a ruler must know that the crown he wears is not a sign of greatness. It is a basket of duties towards his subjects. If a ruler performs his duties well, he is certainly great. But if he ignores them, he is sure to have a fall. Protection of the people is the first and foremost duty of the ruler. Secondly, he must be just and impartial in every matter. Thirdly, he must try and make his people happy and prosperous. In short, if a king is greater than his people, his duties are far heavier and harder too, said the great sage. The education of the princes having been complete, Sage Vashishta sent a message to King Dasharatha. The king at once followed that the sage wanted the princes to return to Ayodhya. So, he sent Sumanta, his prime minister, to bring them home. Sumanta collected royal robes for all the 4 princes and got ready to go to the hermitage of the sage. The queens were very impatient to see the princes. The king and the queens sent presents for Sage Vashishta and other students of the hermitage as well. Sumanta left Ayodhya in a chariot, promising the queens to return with their sons before long. Sumanta reached the hermitage of Sage Vashishta and touched the feet of the great teacher. He paid respects to him on behalf of the king and the queens also. Then, with his palms joined in reverence, he stated the purpose of his visit. Sage duly entertained the Prime Minister of Ayodhya and inquired about the welfare of the royal family. Then he called the princes to his presence. Telling them about the purpose of Sumanta's visit, he advised them as below. I taught you all I could. You must translate all my teachings into your day-to-day life. You shall be able to prove yourself to be good men also. The princes lay straight at their teacher's feet to pay their respects to him. Then they stood up and said with palms joined, we, the sons of King Dasaratha, assure you, sir, that we shall never forget your teachings. We beg you to bless us to prove worthy of your trust. We have learned wisdom from you that nobody else could have given us. Sage Vashishta was indeed very pleased to hear what the princes had said. He remarked, my sons, go back to Ayodhya and serve your parents as well as you can to earn their blessings. My good wishes shall always be with you. The princes put on their stately robes that Sumanta, the prime minister, had brought for them. Then they left for Ayodhya in his chariot. Soon they reached the capital that had been nicely decorated in their honor. People of Ayodhya thronged to welcome the princes, who had returned after a number of years. Everybody was impatient to have a glimpse of the princes. Rama, the crown prince, was the chief attraction for one and all. People hailed him with garlands and raised slogans in his honor. Soon, the news of the return of the princes reached the palace. The king and the queens became impatient to see their dear sons. They fixed their eyes at the gates of the palace. Soon a maid came running and informed the king of the arrival of the princes. King Dasharatha was beside himself with joy. At last, the princes, led by Rama, entered the palace. He went up to the king and touched his feet and spoke in very humble words. Dear father, I, Your son Rama, am at your service again." The other three princes, too, followed suit. Choked with emotion, the king took the princes into his arms and kissed them one by one. He asked them to go and pay their respects to their mothers. So the princes made for the chambers of their mothers, who were waiting for them impatiently. The princes entered the chamber where the queens were waiting for them. Seeing them, Kaushalya could not contain herself for joy. Rama touched the feet of Queen Kaikeyi, who embraced him out of affection. The princes paid their respects to the three queens one by one. Tears of joy welled up in the eyes of the three queens as they saw their sons after many years. They kissed and fondled them as if they were small boys. The day of the prince's arrival was celebrated as a festival. Alms were given generously to the poor. Presents were sent to the saints and brahmanas. Festivals went on for some days. Then the princes took to their daily duties. Rama, being the crown prince, disposed of the state matters entrusted to him. His brothers helped him in his task. The king was very pleased to see the princes going over their daily routine so carefully. He was delighted to see Rama doing his duties for the good of the people, who loved him very dearly.
Please like and subscribe to this channel for more videos.